Hi everyone, welcome back to All I Think About. It's been a while. I was supposed to make this video on 17 December 2024, but I have been procrastinating it. I've been busy in college, blah blah blah. But I'm here now, so let's do it. If you're new here, hi, my name is Strash. My pronouns are he, they, she. All I think about is my outlet for as you can guess, all I think about. I started this page with the intention of making aesthetic videos for lo-fi songs, but then it slowly shifted to topics like photography, mental health, storytelling, and so this is actually a part of that. This is just one of those talking videos. I'm making this video because on 17 December 2024, I officially completed 10 years in therapy. Let's start off with some FAQs. Question number 1. If you've been in therapy for 10 years, does it even work? The answer to that is yes, it does work. And the reason why I'm still in therapy is because there wasn't one incident that happened that made me come to therapy. It was my environment, it was my learnings, it was like the context I was raised in. So many different complex things made me go to therapy, and it's just you keep having revelations. In my case, it has been that I have needed therapy for 10 years and I will continue needing it given my circumstances, given my mental health conditions, etc. But that's not the case for everybody. For some people it works out within a given time frame and they go on with their life. I think it's also important to acknowledge that we live in a traumatizing world. Just opening the newspaper every day is a horror, and it's a horror for us to witness from our phones, from the media, and it's also a horror for the people who are experiencing it. And it's also a horror when you know that one day you're going to be the one in front of the phone and not behind the phone. So it's important to note that it's a difficult world, it's a difficult life, and that's why we need resources, we need community, we need things like therapy. Okay, another FAQ I guess would be, what was something you realized after so many years in therapy? I realized that just therapy isn't enough. We need to do so much more. We need community, as I mentioned earlier. We need resources. We need research to be done into stigmatized mental health conditions. We need to offer food, healthcare, shelter. We need to make sure life is livable for everybody. We need to make sure that this earth is a safe place for everyone. That's what I realized. And so at some point in therapy I realized that my problems were not just here anymore, not just within my house anymore. It was everywhere, and I felt too small in that. And so I do everything I can, whatever I can within my reach. Like, for instance, I do this raising awareness about different mental health conditions, specifically borderline personality. I donate as much as I can to the causes that I'm passionate about. So I do a little part. Like, that's how I cope with this unsettling existential feeling of knowing that the world is so big and I feel so small in it. I try to make these small changes to feel like, what, it's minuscule, it's like barely anything, but it matters. And you know what, as of now, that's good enough for me. But I'm not going to stop right there. I'm going to continue this work. Now I'd like to start with a few core learnings that I have been blessed with through this journey of 10 years in therapy. Even though I've been in therapy for 10 years, this realization only came to me last year. And the learning was this phrase that I say to myself. It's, I'll never have this moment again. Let me explain. Every time you are maybe you're experiencing a moment of peace with loved ones or by yourself, or when you're witnessing nature, you should remind yourself that you will never have this moment again, so that while you're in that moment, you cherish it as much as you can. And the same statement applies for when you're in a moment that you don't want to be in, because it reminds you that at some point you will not have this moment ever again. An example for this was it was more of like a physical discomfort situation. We were at an airport and the plane was not moving, and there was like some issues with the AC and stuff, and it was really hot, and I couldn't stand how I was feeling. So I put my head down and I said to myself, I'll never have this moment again. We flew, whatever. Later, when my parents and I were discussing this incident, they said, yeah, we were there for 2 hours. And I said, what? I thought we were there for 30 minutes. And that's when I realized that that phrase helped me deal with 2 whole hours of just sweating in the middle of nowhere in this very uncomfortable situation where I can do nothing to help myself. And at the same time, the same phrase has helped me look at my loved ones with so much awe and wonder, and been like, I'm so blessed to have you in my life, and I am going to do whatever I can to make sure we have good lives together. So I would suggest you use this statement. It's very multifaceted. It can work in several situations, and connected to the point of things being multifaceted, my second learning is that everything is a spectrum. The existence of contradictory absolutes is the very proof of this. What I realized was that there is no quote unquote absolute truth out there. There's nothing in the world that's completely, like, purely true, because there are so many intersectional layers that you can take into consideration, and you realize that things are not as they seem at the first glance. Like, you really have to sit down, think about it from different perspectives. Everything has a story. When we think about our criminal justice system, we can think about how people are doing their time, and they're getting what they deserve. But can we also think about the system that failed us at the very beginning by never giving these people the opportunity, not be forced into a situation where they have to steal or harm people? What about the fact that they were born in this world and the world failed them so badly? Like, things just got worse. I think it's really upsetting, and like, we need to think about it from that perspective. But when you think about it from, like, if your focus is like the police, you would be like, yeah, these are criminals, we need to keep them out of society, this is our job. As a defense lawyer, your thought will be these systemic issues that brought them to this point in their lives, and how I can make sure they can have a better life after this. And then if you think about it from the perspective of people who were victims of crimes, who were survivors of crimes, for them their whole life changed after that moment. For them it must be difficult to see that person in an empathetic life, because this happened and now my life is ruined. So just this one situation, you can see how many different ways you can think about it. And so that's why it's important to acknowledge that everything is a spectrum, and absolute opposites exist, which proves that everything is a spectrum. Because if there are things like this, 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 things like this, and it becomes a whole circle. So that was another learning of mine. My third learning is that you don't need to romanticize a shitty situation. Why I say that you shouldn't romanticize a shitty situation is because of the given circumstances of the world, with everything that's going on. I think it's important to have radical acceptance where you can be like, yes, this sucks, but that doesn't mean that it will continue to suck, because I don't suck. So what I think you can do. If I may give an example from my life, I thought 2023 was the worst year of my life, and it was. because there were like these instances of grief that kept growing in magnitude, and it just got really bad. And then 2024 came, and I was like, can't be as bad as 2023, right? It got worse. I entered a horrible depressive episode. I ended up at the psych ward. I almost got fired from my job, but because I was already leaving for masters, I didn't technically get fired, but I would have, and it was my dream job. I joined the college I thought would be the college of my dreams. I got disappointed. I was struggling with making new bonds. I felt disconnected to the course I was doing. I decided I would start dating a year later, and there were some good instances that had, but unfortunately I had worse instances where my boundaries were violated, and I just didn't feel like a person anymore. And I realized that the loneliness I've been feeling since my childhood, I've been carrying all this while. I think I need to realize a lot of different things. Like, there's a void within me, there's loneliness within me, there's baggage that I carry, that I can carry all together and still have a nice and fulfilling life. But that will only happen if I start by acknowledging that this is not right. This is not a good situation. It is a shitty situation, but I have the power to make it not shitty. But it starts by acknowledging that it is shitty. We can't, close our eyes, close our ears, and be like, la 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 la, everything's fine, everything's good, whatever, you know, won't necessarily work. My fourth learning is that you should question your mental health practitioners. This is very specific to my situation because I was diagnosed with BPD in 2023, even though I had been showing traits for a very, very long time. And I get the mental health professionals' point of view where they hesitate to give this diagnosis for different reasons. It's stigmatized, etc. But I was there fighting for myself, fighting to prove that I need help, I can be saved, I just need someone to support me. And it didn't work. I remember in 9th standard, I did 2 personality tests. One of them was the Rorschach and blot test, and the other one was, I think it's called NCIM 3 or something. But it was like this huge questionnaire with like 400 statements which you had to say true or false to. And I remember in one of those statements there was a line that said, sometimes I feel like I'm being followed. And I said, you know what, yeah, sometimes I do feel like I'm being followed. So I said true. But when the report was considered, they said that the report will be considered null and void because the client is lying. Like, these weren't the exact words, but this is what it said. And I was so taken aback because I was like, I have opened my soul to this personality test, and they're telling me that I'm lying. It really hurt my feelings, and I didn't fight for it because I was like, I'm in 9th standard. I don't know a lot of different things. I'm an above average student in school. So I was like, you know what, yeah, maybe I am lying, and I trusted that document. Cut to years later where the signs were so obvious, but they just kept being ignored because I was just like, you know what, they probably know better than me. But that's the thing, nobody knows your story better than you. And to get a label sometimes is a very, very liberating experience because it explains things about your life. It's really helpful that way. That's why I would suggest that you should question your MHPs. You should be like, no, why did you say that? Why do you think I'm lying? Why do you think this is not the truth? Can we dive into it? Can we delve deep? You should fight for yourself. I think it's also important to acknowledge that not everybody has the privilege to go for therapy to get a diagnosis. Economic constraints, social constraints, etc. But if you have the opportunity, I think you should fight for it. And after you fought for it, you should continue to fight for it for the people who don't have it. The fifth learning I had was actually very similar to the second learning, which is that everything is a spectrum. I have relied on daydreaming my whole life. I remember as a kid, I would be fantasizing about the future. Oh, it's going to be better. It's going to be better. And I'm in that future that I fantasized about. And guess what I'm doing? I'm fantasizing about the future. So I realized that daydreaming is something that ruined my life because I could never be in the present moment as much as I could. But at the same time, daydreaming saved my life because when things were really bad, when I was a kid experiencing things that I could not understand, that were far beyond my control, that I needed to be saved from, daydreaming saved me. It helped me escape from my reality to a reality that I feel safe in. And so I think it's very similar to the second point, which is that everything is a spectrum. This point is that dichotomies exist and they can coexist. Dichotomies existing is what makes us people, it's what gives us meaning. My sixth learning is that listening is the greatest skill you will ever learn. This is what I understood when, like, every time I'd speak to someone older than me, they'd be like, "So, how you doing?" And I'd say truthfully, "I'm not doing good." And instead of being like, "Why?" they'd be like, "Oh, you should do yoga. Oh, you should do this. Oh, you should do that. When I was your age, I did this, I did that." How about sitting down and just listening to the person's story? Similar to learning number four, nobody knows your life as well as you do. So, it's important to listen. And what's really wonderful about listening is that you learn so many rich details about the lives of people. As I mentioned, 2023 was a really difficult year for me. So when I entered 2024, I had one resolution, which was to listen. And halfway through the year, I met a new friend, and they were just talking about things in general. And they said, "Hey, I noticed that you're a really good listener." And it was such a validating feeling because I was like, "Oh my god, I did it." I really did it. And because they felt heard, we had such rich and deep conversations about our lives, about the world. It just made things so much better. And so I think listening can open a lot of gateways for us for really, really strong connections. So that would be my sixth learning. I wanted to give 10 learnings because, like, 10 years, one learning for 1 year each. But nahi ho paya. But I guess I have a there was I guess this is not really a learning, or it would be a realization. And it's honestly more of a debate point. I don't know, it doesn't fall in any category. I guess it would be miscellaneous or something. I realized that ever since I was a kid, I would sometimes bring down the mood of the room because of my depression. So, like, there were times where people were like, "It's too much. I have to walk around eggshells for you. You this, you that." And last year, I made this, especially after like the psychoid experience. I was like, let me limit how much I share with people. I decided that the person who's going to know the most about my life, the most about how I'm feeling, is my therapist. And it actually helped. Like, I have lost friends over the years, but 2024 was the year that I did not lose any friends. I only lost one friend, but that was because I fell in love with them for the second time, which is a whole different story. But I didn't end up losing any friends. And the debate aspect of this realization is that, am I diluting myself for the world? Am I not existing as my true authentic self for the world? But then again, the people in my life are safe when I dilute myself. So, what do you do in a situation like that? So, I guess that's a question for y'all to ponder about, discuss about. Feel free to comment about it. Is there anything else? I have really low energy. College has been really stressful. I have so much work pending right now. I have my Italian holiday homework pending, and the holiday was in December. So there's a lot, and I'm going to get to work. I hope my learnings struck a chord with someone out there, and I hope I added meaning to your life, to your day, to your evening, whatever it is. Like, I really hope the year is kinder to all of us. I hope that the world is just kinder. And I hope you hope the same, because you are in the world as well, so you should want that too. On that note, I will take your leave. Let's bid adieu until the next video. Bye.